no, you don't have enough work experience to write a book. I was devastated.
So for me, it was a 25-year journey.
Oh, wow.
Because I started and stopped.
It's not enough for me to only tell the story to those that are in close proximity. It's what about those who you don't have proximity to but still need to hear the story.
Fern Johnson, I'm here with my girl,
Dr. Alicia Makaye.
and welcome to another phenomenal podcast. So this one is special. We have all our ladies here, our sisters who are first-time book authors, and we are saluting them for one, taking the challenge and the plunge into creating that first novel. Because, they say everyone has at least one book in them. You have to pen that one book, and then after you pen that one book, you got to get on to the second one. So this episode of Two Lit Chicks is about penning to publish, the secrets of a first-time writer. And with us, because I got your books here, girls. I got your books.
Clap it up for the books.
We have 3 authors here who have released their books, first-time authors in the last 12 months. So first we have, and just recently released, Closed Mouths Don't Get Fed by Tianen and Stephenson.
Woo, woo.
We have Why Not Me by Dr. Brenda L. Carter.
Woo. Dr. Carter.
And The Courage to Continue by Cheryl L. Bevelle Orange.
Woo-hoo.
Welcome, ladies. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you
to coming to our
Thank
podcast. Alicia and I are super excited to have 3 phenomenal sisters here and the work that you've done. And we'd love for you to first introduce yourself. So I'm going to reverse the line and start Dr. Brenda L. Carter.
Thank you. So you heard my name. I am a business psychologist, keynote speaker. I came from the world of DEI, change management, all of the things. That's pretty much who I am. And I'm a mom of 3, been married for about 17 years. And truth is, I'm tired. Options are few.
Okay. Is there a model that you live by, Dr. Brenda?
Absolutely. Tell your inner critic to shut the hell up.
Tell your inner critic to shut the heck up.
Yeah.
Got it. And if you're from New York, you just say shut the hell up because that's how we talk. That's what we do. Facts.
Yes.
Got you.
Yes.
Miss Cheryl, how are you?
I am well.
Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for
girl.
having me. Thank you.
Woo.
So, Cheryl Bevelle Orange, and I am retired CIO of FedEx Custom Critical, but I am still in the workforce, corporate America, and that's what my book is about, navigating corporate America. And I'm a mother of 2, 27 and 31. And been married to my husband for 31 years.
God bless
you. Long time. So I think you asked for the motto.
Yes.
My motto is faith, family, and fun. I'm in
Absolutely.
the 4th quarter, so I'm trying to have all the fun I can have.
All right. I love it. And Miss Tianen, who just recently had a new addition to the family, not just the book, but...
Yes, so it's the year of birthing, as I call it. So yes, I have a newborn boy, the 4th of boys, back in January. So
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's good to say I'm done with that phase of my life. And so we'll start with that. So I am a wife of 10 years. I am a mother of 4 adventurous boys. And then also in my corporate world, I am a senior manager in the Accenture song practice / design and digital products. I'm also involved in DEI efforts at Accenture. I'm an author, speaker, track coach,
nice.
nonprofit, youth sports organization, and all the things, as we call it.
So do you have a little model that you live by?
Yes, the book title, Closed Mouths Don't Get Fed.
Okay.
My dad told me that growing up. I always stuck by it, and it hasn't steered me wrong.
Awesome. So there's a little something I know about each one of you ladies, so I just wanted to pull on that. So, Tian, since you have a track background, and I know this is probably something we may or may not put into our podcast, but just yesterday, Noah Lyles ran the 200. Was it last night or the night? Yeah, last night or the night before. What's your perspective on running with COVID?
It depends, the consulting answer, but when you have an opportunity of the lifetime, you got to take it.
it.
That's right.
You have to take it. I understand the concerns,
Right.
and he tried to do his best with safety, with
Right.
masking and all of that. You got
would
to
take
take
it.
the chance.
You would take it.
Yes.
You would take it.
There's a lot of criticism, I know it, but I'm kind of with no on this one.
Okay, all right. Now, Cheryl, you family first, and as long as I've known you, girl, and that's been quite some time, it's always been family first. In fact, I actually was one of the first people to watch over Cheryl's kids when they were young. So we've known each other quite some time. But you call your family the four
legs.
Four legs. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, for me, it takes 4 legs for a chair to stand, or for a table, in the most part, to stand. And so for us, it takes all 4 of us to make things work for our family. So one person can't be off, or down, or we all have to come together, and that's how we became the 4 legs.
I love it. And then Brenda, I know that you're all about family first as well. So what's your family golden nugget? What keeps the Carter crew glued?
Being down to earth, like never letting the small stuff or the big wins get to you. Always gravitate back to, just staying humble, staying grounded, and that family first type of thing, because it's easy when life comes at you fast and you find yourself disoriented. You might get a little big-headed, or you might get a little under big-headed, but come back to the center. Let's stay grounded, let's stay humble, but let's have fun while we do it. And that's kind of the model that we've been kind of operating by.
Well, thank you for sharing that. We're going to dive into the book.
Okay, so my first question, before we start talking about the process, because I know everybody that is tuning in today wants to know about the process, pen to publish, the secrets. So we're not going to give away the secrets yet. So first question, what inspired you to write a book? Inquiring minds want to know.
First, wanted to tell my story, but then second, really just wanted to help people along their careers. I saw some decent success in my career, and I was like, if I can take the lessons I've learned and help others, then they can win in the same places as I occupy. So really just wanted to help.
I love it. Okay, Cheryl.
Well, I started because I'm a first-generation corporate American. So my dad is a coal miner or retired. My mom is a retired school teacher. So when I jumped in, I had nothing. I was starting from scratch.
Wow.
So what I wanted to do when I started having children was to give them a blueprint so that they wouldn't have to start like I did. But as I got into the corporate world and started to mentor, got into leadership and helping others, I found that they needed the same things that I was documenting for my children. And so that's how the book actually kind of began. I began, taking the mentoring and all of that and putting some of that in the book as exercises and notes to yourself, and it just continued to blossom. So for me, it was a 25-year journey.
Oh, wow.
Because I started and stopped. Life got in the way. Kids, were coming up. And so, but I got a lot of good insights from different people at different levels along their career journey. And so that's how I got into the book. And when in COVID, though, we were finding things to do, and we were all at home. We didn't have time to go out and do all those things that have been occupying our time. And so I was like, okay, this is the time to really focus and get it done.
Love it.
That's good. Okay, Dr. Carter.
Yeah. So for me, I was a child abuse survivor, and I would share different nuggets and things that I learned along the way of my healing process. And one of the biggest things that I had learned was that trauma doesn't just impact relationships. It impacts how you show up as a leader and that inner critic that I spoke about earlier today. And so I've wrestled with that for a long time, but I actually went on the journey and came out on the other side. And so that's what made me want to write the book, because it's not enough for me to only tell the story to those that are in close proximity. It's what about those who you don't have proximity to but still need to hear the story. And I definitely had certain stories that I was like, I'm not sure if I should tell or not. But then you finally just pull the trigger and you're like, you know what? It's not about me. It's about who needs to hear this. So that's really what inspired me to really push and write it. And with the help of my husband and my oldest daughter, they was like, no, you have to get that out. And so the book was born.
Wow. So now let's jump into the process, because every last one of you, Cheryl, of course, talked a little bit about her process. So Cheryl, I want to, you talked about how you spent 25 years writing your book. Tell us your book title, and then let's unpack that 25 years. Mm-hmm. Just give us, 2 minutes of what was that process like?
So the book is The Courage to Continue Navigating Your Corporate Journey. And so the title is about having the courage to be yourself in corporate America and to, step out of your comfort zone and do the things that you need to do to succeed. So it was really a self journey for me. And it probably should not have taken 25 years, but again, it was a self journey. So the process, I started, I stopped, I wrote an outline, I started, I stopped, and it just was an iterative process. I'm in IT, so I was agile. I was very But I think that though in the end, when I really focused, and that's what I would say to someone who's trying to get started, if you really focus, and also, ghostwriting is a thing as well. I had at the end a ghostwriter. And so part of the process was outline, write, organize, and then I got a ghostwriter to help me kind of bring it on in. So
a question on that. It sounds like you didn't start with the ghostwriter. You added them in while you were midway through the process?
Right. I was actually at the end of the process.
Okay.
And just to be quite honest, I had my son to read it because I wanted it to be relevant to people that was in corporate America, young people. And he said, Mom, the story is good. I get everything, but what makes it you? And so, I can get some of these tips from other places. What makes this book you? So I went back to my I found a ghostwriter, and I was like, okay, this is the problem that I think I have. And so then she began to bring in all of my history and why I was the way I was, and brought in the mental health aspect of it. So she really helped me to make it my story and not just steps or information about how to be successful in corporate America.
It sounds like your voice was stamped on it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
That's good. Okay. What was your process like? Introduce your book to us. Tell us the title.
So the name of my book is called Closed Mouths Don't Get Fed, The Recipe for Asking and Getting What You Want in the Workplace. So the process altogether was 5.5 years. So It's very quick. The first draft took me about 18 months. Then it sat during COVID, and I shifted my priorities more on family, and then I was pregnant also during COVID. So a lot of life happening during COVID. And then in 2022, I was like, I have to finish this. I felt a sense of urgency. It was a pin in my side that's like, all right, you have to do it. And so I guess to back up a little bit too, the beginning of the process, I actually had the name first.
Really?
Yes. I got promoted to manager, and I asked myself, how did I get here? And that saying came up because I was telling people that all the time. People like, how were you able to get this? How were you able to get the client to say yes to that? Or how were you able to make it all happen? And I'll just say, closed mouths don't get fed. My dad would tell me that all the time, and I've really pushed myself with that saying in my career, and saw I was getting the things I wanted or the things I needed, the support that I needed. And so I started with the title first, and I was like, all right, what does that mean to me? So I would jot down just thoughts, and like, all right, this story is relevant, or this thought process, or having the right people behind me, or, you know, when I got no's, what did I do with that? And then just expanding on each of the thoughts every time I sat down and write. And most of the time that I wrote was on a plane. At the time,
Wow.
I was traveling every week. Going to North Carolina, back and forth. I was like, all right, I'm going to take advantage of these plane rides because I didn't want to take time away from home with the limited time at home. And so I took advantage, made the most of it. But then when I decided to pick up the pen and keep going, and I think another part of not finishing at first, I went to one editor and they told me no.
Oh, wow.
They were like, oh, no, you don't have enough work experience to write a book. And I was devastated. I was like, and it sat for like 6 to 8 months. I was like, I don't even look at what she wrote. You know, the edit, she
chopped it up?
She chopped it up real bad and probably a little needed, but I was like, that voice was in my head a little bit. And so 2022, I was like, no, I'm not going to let that be the end. I need to finish. I need to get it across the finish line. And then I saw Cheryl at an ITSMF event, and she was talking about her book. And I was like, all right, did you use a writing coach or a ghostwriter or whatnot? She's like, oh, I can give you the context. So I used her person as my writing coach to read through it. She read through it, and she's like, yes. And that was the right yes that I needed to have someone to believe in me, to see my vision and help me bring it to life. And so the second draft took about 9 months. Most of the story was there. My voice was there. Some of the concise pieces probably wasn't, or too much tech language. So I had to, you know, shape it up a little bit better. And then I released it in June of this year.
So what's interesting, I had no idea that y'all had a connection. Seriously, had no idea that y'all had a connection in sharing resources. So that is phenomenal. Sisters making it happen.
That's what we do.
That's what
I love
we do.
it. I love
Little
it.
Black girl magic there.
Yes. Okay, Dr. Carter.
All right. So my book is called Why Not Me? The Journey to Unlocking the Leader in Me. And my process was probably a little unconventional because I was in dissertation mode at the time, which already teaches you how to write and how to research and do all of the things. So I would do, and I started writing the book on the back end of my dissertation because it gave me a creative outlet, and I operate in two extremes. So 1 minute I'm super analytical, and then the next minute I'm extremely creative. And so what I did was I started writing and playing with the book to kind of get my head away from dissertation mode because I was like heavy into articles and all of the things, and I felt a little burnt out. And so around that time, because my process was, because I was in dissertation mode, I knew about Otter AI, and I'm not really that structured at all. So I did it chapter by chapter, and so I used Otter to speak what I wanted for that chapter just to get it out. Because sometimes when I start typing, I'll get too formal and it won't come out, and then I get stuck. So instead, I just spoke it into Otter, it transcribed it, and then I told Chat, I said, hey, put this into, organize it for me, because structure and organization is my weak spot. But I have no issue with content. And so once I actually saw the first chapter come through, I was like, oh my God, okay, this is happening. Because I had been scared to write it, just like I was scared to go to therapy and tell what happened. But I also wanted to make sure I wasn't just sharing my story. I was also sharing the lessons that I learned to help leaders, you know, and to really understand how trauma shows up even in the workplace. And so I did that chapter 1, then it was like chapter 2, and then chapter 3. And I was like, I'm really doing it, you know, and it felt great because that was the year that I was really focused on beating up my inner critic. So the way it beat me up, I was trying to beat it up even worse. And so I worked my process, because me working my process helped me to be highly productive. So I was able to do the dissertation and the book, and both, I kind of did both around the same time. So I defended dissertation in August, and my book was released in August. And I had reached out to a contact from PepsiCo that me and her were really close friends. And I said, how did you publish your book? Because she had also published a book shortly after dissertation. And she gave me the vendor to help take it from a Microsoft Word document to an actual book. And I was like, no way, is this really about to happen? Am I really about to publish a book? And it was like super surreal, because I was just happy that I just got it out. I was like, hey, I got it out, guys. You know, so that was my process.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, you want Bad Sister to be writing a book and a dissertation at the same time. So give your kudos to that, because I parked over in that dissertation lane and stayed.
So, Brenda, it sounded like your book was healing and cathartic.
It very much
you
so
talked
was.
about getting it out, right?
Yes.
And what was that like to tell your story as a way of healing for yourself?
Yeah, it was scary, because you don't know what to say, because if I give the full details, I'll bring the audience too far down, because the details of my story can really be really bad, and I know that. But it was like, how do I say it in a way where I'm still taking them on the journey, but I'm still revealing? But then I also come from a smaller town in New York, and so everybody is like, oh, she wrote a book about it. And they're wondering if I'm dropping tea or whatever, and it's not about that. It is about helping. And so it was healing, but it was nerve-wracking, because it was like, ooh, this is about to come out. You know, and there's some things some new revelations that came towards the end that really pushed me towards it, that my family didn't know about. They didn't know that I knew about. And so some of that was like revelatory, like, oh, she knows that we didn't tell the truth about this or about that. But it felt freeing, because I was no longer that little girl that felt like she was on punishment or had to be the whipping post. Like, I was taking charge of my life, my story, and I was the one now writing the narrative rather than allowing someone else to write it for me.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So you two talked about outlines. You talked about Otter AI. Oh, sounds like he might have been your side hustle to help you get the book.
Hey, get in how you fit in.
What was the most challenging part? Did you ever get stuck? It sounds like you had a pause because someone kind of put a little negative Nancy in your head. But was there a challenging part of the process for either one of you?
Definitely.
Yes, all parts of it was challenging. Obviously writer's block. If you can't figure out, all right, how do I want to say this? Am I saying it too techie or too long? And a lot of the inside talk, I think, plays into it. The other piece for me was seeing where I wanted to finish, how I wanted to finish. And the way I ended up finishing was calling the last chapter Pass the Plate, paying it forward, helping others along their journey. So it kind of made it full circle for me, and just learning the process. I think just all of us, because we're first time, we didn't know what we didn't know.
Right.
Cheryl, how about you?
I think challenging for me was really putting my thoughts. It was easy for me to tell you what somebody else did and what my mentees did and how it turned out for them, but telling my true story. And at the end, my book, I talk about mental health and kind of laying out how some of the things that happened in my life affected my mental health and the things that I had to go through to be a good leader.
Right.
If you don't have the right frame of mind, you think you're showing up, knocking it out of the park.
Yep. Amen.
But you're not really, because your mental health is not where it should be. So that was, I think, the hardest part for me. Just telling for real, what was going on.
And there's some vulnerability in that. And, I've thought about the book writing process myself, and it's like, ooh.
Yes.
You had said a little bit, ooh, do I want to share that?
Yeah.
And, ooh, people don't know that side of me. Do you want to show that? So it sounds like you experienced a little bit of that as well.
Absolutely. And I'm a very private person. So for me to lay it out there, knowing that because of what you see, for me to say it, makes it okay. Going to see a therapist is okay. You need to do that if you're having issues. So for me to say that, for people who know me and for people to know that I'm private is like maybe an aha moment for someone.
Did any of you, especially you, Tianen and Cheryl, did y'all use AI?
I did not.
Okay, did not use AI.
But I will for my second book.
So tell us about, so you use AI, so just leaning into that just a little bit more. I feel like, are you cheating the process? Just recently I was at a conference and they talked about how to leverage AI as an accelerator. And really, it is an intelligence factor that you can use to help you get access to more information and aggregate that and help you accelerate your process of writing or research or what have you. So for you, Brenda, what made you lean into it? And it sounds like you really liked what you got back, and then you had to put a little Brenda sauce on it to really make it speak your language. What made you lean into AI to help write your book?
It was actually by accident. We had a friend over, and he was like, "Oh, have you heard about ChatGPT?" I had heard about it, but I was like, "I'm not messing with that young people stuff," right? And then he comes over and he shows me, and I'm like, "Wow!" And like I said, I'd already used Otter because I have to do that in order to conduct my my dissertation. Some of the things that I was doing, and then I started playing around with it, and I created this process in my head, like take Otter, put it in Otter, transcribe it, and then lift it over to Chat. Because there were certain parts where I just needed to get it out because my story is so raw. And I'm like, okay, how can I take this story about this particular incident and how do I phrase it in a way that's not so raw?
Soften it or?
Soften it. And me and Chat would fight back and forth, right? And I would, because I am an academic, I would also kind of compete with Chat a little bit just to see if I can break it and make it wrong, and I did a few times and I felt good. I was like, okay, all right. So I didn't feel like I was cheating anything because I was so involved in the process. This wasn't just a, hey, write this for me. This was a paragraph by paragraph. I'm speaking it in there, and I'm like, nope, I'm gonna add this to it. I'm gonna add, now proofread this because I suck at proofreading, but this is my story, and I want the controls over it. And so after just that friend coming over showing me about Chat, it's just like I put two and two together. Ooh, Otter. Ooh, Chat. Let's see if we can build it out this way, and it allowed me to enjoy the creative process more than being too technical about it. And that's the reason why I feel like I was able to work on it during the dissertation mode, because I just got a chance to play, to unpack everything and to really allow my thoughts to just come out.
So do you think it was an accelerator? So how much time saved do you think by leveraging AI?
I think it saved me probably years. The reason why is because there's parts of my story, like I said, that are so raw, and it would have been really hard for me to figure out how to soften it or, get to that point without it just being just an old memoir, right? And so me being able to say what I'm trying to say into Chat,
right,
and then it say, okay, and I'm like, and I give it the command and say, okay, kind of need to hide names. I kind of need to soften the situation, but I still want to keep the heart of what I just said.
Right.
And then it'll shoot it back to me, and I'm like, you took a little bit too much out. Add a little more in, right? That part, that was the fun part, because I got a chance to create. And like when I did my dissertation, and I had the initial coach, like we went through the outline, and I had the same problem. Everything was in my head. Right. But I had a really hard time getting on paper. And I knew that was my problem across the board. It's all in my head, and I can't get it out. So Chat helped me get it out, and helped me get it out quicker and cheaper.
Awesome.
So let's talk about the publishing part. So how did you actually publish your book? You mentioned a little bit about it. You went to the first editor. They said no. So what happened after that?
So I knew there were two main routes, the traditional and self-publishing. And so first I did a lot of research as I was still fine-tuning everything, and then called publishers to see, like, all right, let me at least take a chance. Let me see what they think, and sent in some manuscripts to them. A couple of them liked it, but there's a thing when you don't have a name yet, they rather take you to one of their subsidies, and they will make you cover the upfront costs, which can be anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000. And they're telling me, hey, you need to do all of these things, all of these steps. And I'm like, well, if I already done that, I've already been through 3 rounds of editing already, or I've already done this. Oh, you need and they were trying to upsell everything. And so I was like, all right, at least I can say I tried. Let me continue to explore the self-publishing route. And then any authors or people I knew that were authors, I was talking to them about their writing journey, understanding their path. Some of them did do traditional, some of them did self-publishing. And then I knew I could make the right choice for me. And self-publishing was the better choice because of more control, more freedom, and not as expensive. It's kind of ridiculous how much they charge these days.
There's collective head nods going on over here.
Yes.
Your sisters are like,
I hated the self-publishing part. I hated going through the process of, it has to be in this format, it has to be so many words on the page, it has to be the way that I went through. It just was annoying to me. So you have to have patience if you're going to self-publish. Have patience to get it right, to send it in, and be open with any kind of feedback that they have. You have to go through mentally. For me, I was like, I've had a ghostwriter, I've had my editor, just publish the book.
right.
But it wasn't that simple.
So can I touch on one thing? Because I didn't realize that there was a difference, and I think our audience may want to understand this. There's the writing process, there's the editing process, and then there's the publishing process. And the editor and the publisher are not one and the same, correct?
No,
They
but
don't have
can.
to be.
They can be?
It just
Depends on where you
depends.
go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would say having your own editor is probably cheaper than having the publisher edit it.
Ah, okay. I would have thought the opposite, because I would have thought they would have worked in concert with each other. No?
Everyone got to get a piece of their own pie.
Okay.
See, now for me, it was a little different. So a good friend of mine, Marari Simeon, she had already published a book, and she used like a smaller publisher. And so she gave me the contact. Shout out to Ayana Ambrose. She was awesome, end to end. So I was like, she was like, where are you at? I was like, I have it written. I just need to get it from this Microsoft Word document to an actual book. And so I gave it to her. She had an editor. They edited down the book. They did all of the things. And then we went through, like, what do I want to do for the cover? Fun fact, that photo, I took that in my bathroom, catty-cornered in the bathroom.
Okay. It's a beautiful picture.
Thank you. I took that in my bathroom with my Samsung. And we put it on the cover. And so she did everything end to end, and it wasn't as, like, expensive as when I did the research, like what you were saying, like $10,000, $20,000. I'm like, bro, I ain't got that type of money, right? I got 3 kids. I don't have that. But she was more affordable end to end, and that made it easier, a lot easier, especially during dissertation mode, because I probably would have abandoned ship if I had to go through all of what you was mentioning with self-publishing, because I looked at it and I was like, yeah, nah, I don't have that. No, my patience, it's gone. Yeah, I have 0. So
So quick question, and so for those who can see in our audience, so why not me? Brenda has her gorgeous face on the picture, and Tianen has her gorgeous face on the picture, and Cheryl, you decided not to. Is there something that's being told of whether or not we use your face or not use your face? I have no idea. I'm just wondering what makes you choose to have your face on the cover versus say, hey, I want to have an image. I think our audience might want to know, when is the time for one versus the other, or is it just a personal preference?
It's really just a personal preference. So originally, when I completed the first draft of my book, I actually designed it, and it was like a big mouth on it, and I thought that was it.
Okay.
But then obviously it sat and was going through re-editing and whatnot. So 3 years later, different ideas, and I still thought like, all right, some other image, and work with a designer. And I want to say about 5-6 weeks after I had my son, I was like, ooh, I need to do some new pictures. So I took the pictures, and I was like, oh, maybe let me try to play around and design a couple things. So first, that was not my first choice.
Okay.
I actually had a red jumpsuit picture that I was choosing as the front cover, and then some of the feedback's like, okay, red may be a little too bold, or you know, I was like, okay. They're like, what about the white picture? You know, what about that one? That one's softer, and your mouth is closed, and so it may hint at the title. I was like, all right, let's play around with that. So I fell in love with it with the first draft. The biggest issue I had was choosing the right font. I was so meticulous about the font that held up my design process, just the font.
So details matter.
They do.
Yes,
They
yes.
definitely do. Like, I don't like the font on mine right now. Like, I would re-release it and totally change the font.
Okay.
But to the point, you can choose if you want to have your face on it or not. I just felt like because it was my story,
Right.
that my face should be on it. And now originally I was going to choose something else, like this. I don't know what it was. It was like a guy walking up the stairs or whatever. But I'm like, no, that doesn't feel like me. And this is a creative baby, right? And so I needed to reflect what it is I'm feeling. Now, I had heard different things like, oh, you shouldn't put your face on it unless you're famous or whatever. Well, I'm speaking those things that are not as though they are.
All right, go sister. Speak it into existence.
Yeah, so my face is going on the cover.
So now let's talk about the ready to launch. How do y'all market your book? I mean, now you got the book. First of all, do you order like 100 of them and it sits in your house? And then you go out and sell them door to door. Do you put them in a trunk?
Like
how does this go? Like the
CDs. Door to door.
Y'all said the CDs back in the day. How do we do this?
Get a little Amazon going there, hopefully.
Yes. Amazon, you buy books, you do.
Okay.
I bought mine mostly for book signings. So I had several, went from city to city, town to town, you know, where I had an influence of people. Amazon, Barnes & Noble. When you publish even for self-publishing, for the company I went with, they had an opportunity for me to get me on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and their website as well. So as long as you have the number, the ISBN number, you can get published on the websites.
Did y'all target any black bookstores? That's just a curious question. You do target black bookstores?
I have.
You have? Okay.
I've targeted a little bit of everything.
Okay. Anybody else want to share about their marketing process?
Yeah, mine sucked. I'm not going to lie.
Perhaps we would say yours was opportunistic.
Okay, well, we'll leverage that. So here's the thing. It was back-to-back, dissertation, then book, and I've sold in person, and of course, as I'm telling my story and I'm keynoting, I can sell from stage, right? And so I do that. But when you talk about like an actual release, when you talk about like touring, did not do any of that because life was just like a whirlwind. And then we had that part where like everybody on my block found out, they all broke the book, and then the whispers, and I was like, yeah, let me manage that, right?
Yes,
so I had my own management that I had to do with that, but I never actually did a legitimate release of the book. I just more so my keynote kind of mirrors the book, and so I sell the book from stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I would just add, when you talk about marketing, I selected not to put my picture on the book because I am showing on there people helping each other up a cliff. And so I'm kind of mimicking corporate America can be the cliff that we're trying to help each other up.
Yeah.
So I decided to use that visual opposed to putting my face on there in hopes that when you pass by it, in a bookstore, you will see it and say, oh, I wonder what that is and how that represents the book.
So how did you ladies know when you were finished? How did you know? I mean, Tianen, you talked a little bit about, how did you want to close the loop and you giving it back, paying it forward, pass the plate, I think you had mentioned. How did y'all know, okay, this masterpiece, thank you, Jesus, Allah, God, Buddha, is done? How'd y'all know that?
I had nothing left.
Just thought that, hey, I gave enough advice. It makes sense. It's cohesive. There's a flow. There's a beginning, middle, and end in a sense. Just sticking to some of those basics. And I do have some other ideas on books for later, but for this one complete thought, and I think it's enough to help people along their way, I was like, all right, it's good. It's a finished product.
Right.
And I think working with the writing coach helped me see that it was in a good spot. Because the first draft, I was like, yeah, this can't go to market. This sounds exactly the way I talk. And, there's some of that you still want to keep as personality. But if I say the word continuous 20 times in the chapter, then that's an issue. There's other words we can switch out.
We have talked about the process, the editing and researching of your book. And so now, ladies, we want to know, what is the secret sauce to getting it done? We got people that are listening, future aspiring authors. What's the secret sauce?
Yeah, I can go. Tell your inner critic to shut up.
Oh, tell your inner critic to shut up. Did y'all get that?
Yeah.
Noted.
Short and succinct.
I would say focus. I am a person of task. I like tasks. Put this on your list and figure out how to focus on it.
Awesome.
So I'm going to combine both of yours. So the first one is, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a journey. And then the other piece is just get started. Like, just start writing. That's how I did it. Just like, all right, just write whatever's coming out my head. Just put it on paper.
That's good.
So I think we have answered all of our questions. There's a ton more that our audience would love to hear from these phenomenal sisters who have put together, they've penned it, they've published it, they have secrets on using AI, getting a process, having an outline, letting the skies 30,000 miles above the air be your writing engine. Don't let that voice inside you stop you. Just start the journey. Have patience, have focus. So we thank you so much for being part of our Two Lit Chicks podcast. This actually will close out our season, and so it's no better way to have three phenomenal ladies who, in their own right, are sharing their stories, in their own right, are giving it back and paying it forward, making sure that you're helping people either by telling your story, releasing it, helping them climb that ladder, help them making sure that they're feeding their families and keeping their mouths open and staying hungry for the journey. So thank you so much for joining Alicia and I. We are humbled to learn from you. And I don't know, maybe Alicia, you want to write a book, girl?
Listen, I wrote a dissertation.
That was enough?
No, that's not enough. That's not enough. Part of being in this tech journey is to leave something behind.
A legacy.
Yeah,
Yes.
Giving it back, paying it forward. So we're not done. So stay tuned for the next episode or season of Two
Lit
Chicks.